game preview Saturday. San Francisco 49ers taking on the Green Bay Packers. This is probably going to be the one matchup everybody is most interested in for Saturday's slate, just because I think the odds are higher. I mean, for Aaron Rodgers, the expectation is that the Packers should win this game. For Aaron Rodgers, for the Green Bay Packers, they've been talked about all season long. MVP, Super Bowl contenders. Can they get there, especially considering last year's NFC Championship disappointment? I'm excited for this 8:15 Eastern time on Fox. And gentlemen, the temperature is expected to be in single digits by the time we get to the second half. It could be below zero, which I'm always excited for, that type of weather. Aaron Rodgers loves it. But my question is, will the Green Bay Packers get some players back healthy? Obviously, we're talking about David Bakhtiari, Jair Alexander, Zadarius Smith, all players listed as questionable. If they get them back, I tell you what, I think that the chances of Green Bay having a really good shot to win this game, it kind of increases significantly, even though that San Francisco, they have done a tremendous job of kind of proving the narrative about them being underdogs and bully ball fanatics here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the Packers went, 14-3 this year. They were the 1 seed in the NFC, largely without those dudes. And now you bring back, and these just aren't like 3 complementary pieces that they're good to have. Those are 3 of their best players at their position in the NFC, if not the entire NFL. They really are impact players. The Packers, of course, you don't know how they're going to play coming off the bye. They didn't really, although they played against the Lions, they didn't play against the Lions. They didn't feel like. So will there be some rust? We don't know. But from a pure talent standpoint, the Packers have never been better and healthier than they are right now.
100% agree. And I've been a massive Jair Alexander fan dating back to his time in college. I mean, he was the biggest troll in college football. And I think you have to have a little bit of that attitude when you are a defensive back. I think David Bakhtiari, when he is healthy, and when Trent Williams isn't playing like an alien, is the best left tackle in the NFL. So getting him back is massive, especially after the loss of Elgton Jenkins, who, again, another guy who is just one of the best at his positions. And obviously they had him for most of the season until the end, and then finally, lost him to injury as well. Getting Josh Myers back on the offensive line at center for Week 18 and then into the playoffs is massive as well. They're just getting healthy at the right time, and they were already the best team in the NFL. The issue is this matchup is kind of tough for them. They are not a good run defense. In fact, they are a terrible run defense. It's really interesting. They run an odd man front. They do a ton of 5-man fronts with a guy playing, usually Kenny Clark, playing 0 or 1 technique. And then they have 2-3 techniques trying to really plug up the middle. Obviously, Devondre Campbell is a fantastic run defender. He's an all-pro this year. But those C gaps, outside runs, those are open, man. And getting Zadarius back, if he is healthy enough to make a difference, will make a difference against the run for this Packers team, but probably going to be on a pitch count, probably won't have a massive impact in this game. And in their Week 3 game that they played in, Kyle Juszczyk had 5 rushes. Trey Sermon had 10 rushes. Those were their 2 leading rushers in that football game. Mitchell didn't play. Deebo got 2 carries, but neither of them were actually out of the backfield. Both of them were as a wide receiver coming in and taking a handoff. They have a completely different rushing attack now. They figured that out. They figured out how to use Deebo. It's going to be 0 degrees that night in Lambeau. And Jimmy Garoppolo is playing with a bad thumb and a bad shoulder, so they're not going to throw the football either. So it's going to be a really interesting game. I think that if they're able to stay in it early, I think that they have a legitimate shot of winning this football game.
Yeah, I completely agree. You stole my talking points, so I hate you for that. But it means
Damn it, I'm sorry.
It means we're both wrong. But
yeah, it'll be 37-16 at the end of it.
Right. Mike McDaniel might get himself a head coaching job this weekend. Like if he can go into Lambeau with Jimmy Garoppolo, who's even at 100% throws the ball to the wrong team way too often, and run in Lambeau and get to the NFC Championship game with that offense, Steve Ross should just hand him a blank check because I know Shanahan calls the plays. You cannot overstate the impact that Josh McDaniel has in the construction of that run offense in particular. That the jobs that they do running the football, the unique looks, like the way they should have clinched the game if they got another 3 inches against the Cowboys with that crazy end around from Deebo where it was basically student body right. The entire offensive line was pulling with him. That is brilliant bleep, man. That is incredible stuff. And I have no doubt that that was a Mike McDaniel idea because he is the run game coordinator. He's the offensive coordinator in name only, but he is the guy that comes up and that's his passion. His passion is finding ways to beat you on the run with the run game, which sounds antiquated, but it works, man. It works what they're doing. And when you do that, we talked about the play action game and all that. You allow your passing offense to be number one in yards per pass a game, which is crazy to think. I mean, they've got great weapons, obviously. But they also have Jimmy Garoppolo as their quarterback. They are the most, on a yard basis, certainly not on a turnover basis, but on a yard basis, the most efficient passing offense in the National Football League. I will say this. If Aaron Rodgers loses in the divisional round to Jimmy Garoppolo, it is a terrible stain to his legacy. It's a terrible stain because this is probably his last best chance to win a Super Bowl. This entire year has been around beating Favre. Okay. He broke the record. They broke the team record earlier in the year. I was at that game in Baltimore. He's going to have his 4th MVP award. Favre has only won 3. And Favre won 1 Super Bowl. Rodgers has won 1 as well. This is his year. He's trying to get all of his ducks in a row to beat Favre. And you're playing the 6th seed. I know they're a good team. I know they're a very hot team, but you're the 1 seed and you're getting everybody back. You cannot lose that game. So I think unless the Packers defense just gets absolutely shredded, if Rodgers makes any mistakes, it's going to be terrible. It's going to be a terrible look for him, and it's going to be something that eats at him for a long time.
The question is going to be,
Rodgers and mistakes don't really compute ever. I mean, that's part of what his genius is. He's been able to have high touchdown seasons and throw 4 picks for the entire year. He is just a mistake-free guy, but somehow teeters on the line somehow of aggression and recklessness. And he does it absolutely perfectly, like an Olympic gymnast. And I think that's what makes Aaron Rodgers in particular, when we look at all of the quarterbacks that we've ever seen play the game, I think that in particular is what makes him so special.
Yeah, here's a crazy stat. The Packers, as you mentioned, he doesn't throw interceptions. They are second in interception rate in the entire NFL. The Niners defense is 28th in interception rate. So you're having an offense that doesn't turn the ball over against a defense that doesn't force turnovers. You may need a perfect game from the Niners offense to win.
You just need a couple turnovers. Look, the Niners defense last week, they forced that interception on Dak a little bit late on in that third quarter. That's a tide changer. And also, just going back in recent weeks, they also had that big overtime interception on Matthew Stafford. This is the thing. I think when we see these matchups happen, like we can look at it on paper and say, hey, looking at this officially, all it takes is a Kevin King moment away from all of a sudden everything changing, like we saw last year against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And not to mention, it just depends on what flow of play calling. I'm a big believer, gents, and I've been speaking about this all week long on PFN Weekly. The thing that concerns me the most with any of these teams that have a first-round bye is the fact that they haven't played football in a week and a half, almost 2 weeks essentially, versus teams that are red hot. And right now, I feel like there's a lot of pressure on Green Bay just because you're playing a San Francisco 49ers team that has just played bully ball with people so far this year. The way that they have come in and have not necessarily, I'd say, shock people, but the way that they've imposed their will on opposing defenses has been spectacular. It starts with Deebo Samuel. I mean, the amount of trust that Kyle Shanahan puts in his players. And one thing I saw on a QB Collective page as well, saying that we want to get to a point as coaches where, players tell us what we're going to run and we run it rather than us telling them what we're going to run and then running it. I mean, that is exactly where they're at right now. But also an interesting statistic to kind of go through here, gentlemen. If the Packers win this game, they would become the first NFC team since the San Francisco 49ers back in 2011 to 2013 to advance to 3 consecutive NFC Championship games. Like you said, Adam, Rodgers has to win this one or else it could end up being a very big stain on his legacy.
Yeah, I mean, how many more chances like this is he going to get? I mean, he's not super old, but he's not young either. And I mean, we've been at it for 35 minutes, and I don't want to go down this road, but I'm going down this road.
Do it.
This is a dude that hasn't exactly committed to the Green Bay Packers in 2022.
Yeah,
he didn't at all commit to the Packers in 2021, and it took the week before training camp for him to even decide to play this year. So, if he's failed by coaching or failed by his teammates, and there's a lot of times he probably secretly sees the organization failing him, will that be enough for him to say, okay, how about I go somewhere where it's not 6 degrees in the NFC divisional round?
Yeah, and it could be especially difficult because of how the 49ers win on defense. It's not a lot of super tight coverage, it's a lot of spot drop zone concepts, and we're going to rush four guys, and we're going to beat the five guys that you have blocking. And I think that Nick Bosa's health might be the biggest key to this entire game. Can he clear the NFL's concussion protocol or not? And that's not to just throw out the rest of that defensive line. They're still going to get pressure on Aaron Rodgers. That defensive line is really good, whether he's on it or not. But he is so good as a pass rusher and as a run defender too. But he's so good as a pass rusher that you need to give him extra attention. Whether he's on the inside, outside, doesn't matter. You need to give him help. And that allows guys like Arden Key and DJ Jones and Ebukam and last week Charles Omenihu came out of nowhere with a sprinter stance, ass all the way up in the air, just bowling over Tyron Smith. So this is a defensive line that it doesn't matter who it is, they're going to be able to get to you. But with Nick Bosa in there, he really changes the entire dynamic of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see what the baseline test is for Nick Bosa. How would you know he's concussed?
You're going to get Dalton going here today. I mean, that's the thing. We forgot to talk about a player that was in concussion protocol earlier. Real quick, an update on the Titans and Bengals. Trey Hendrickson is cleared. He's going to play, so obviously that's a big boost for them.
Massive.
But yeah, Bosa will be a very interesting one. I saw a statistic about their pass rush rate and the success or the time that they were getting to quarterbacks with Bosa versus with him not being there. It was still very good, like you mentioned, Dalton, with him not being there. But with him there, I think it was almost at a 52% rate in which he was getting pressure on opposing QBs.
Well, and he has, I believe, the highest individual double team rate in the NFL. So, I mean, they get to the quarterback quite a bit, but it's because, obviously they're good players, like I said, but he really changes the entire outlook of that defense.
These teams have met 8 times in the playoffs since 1995, gents, and the winner of the Green Bay-San Francisco playoff game in those 8 matchups, they've advanced to go on to the Super Bowl at least 4 times, right? So could we potentially see one of the Super Bowl teams in this weekend's matchup between the 49ers and the Green Bay Packers? Now let's get into our X Factor players, gentlemen. I'm going to start things off. My 49ers X Factor, it's going to be this may sound cliche. It's going to be Deebo Samuel. He is the motor, the engine that runs that offense. We talked about Jimmy G throwing the ball, but as long as you find a way to get Deebo Samuel the ball, you have a chance. We mentioned an 18.2 yards per catch, the separation he creates, the elusiveness after the catch that he creates. If you just find a way to get the ball in his hands, Deebo is going to do work. He's going to take it. I mean, he embodies everything that you want in bully ball. He's done it countless times all season long. He's won many people their fantasy leagues or their fantasy matchups, including me. I probably won 7 or 8 of my games because of Deebo Samuel alone. My X factor is going to be Deebo regardless. He's always going to be the guy that if you want to win, put Deebo in.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He's banged up. He's got a back injury. We're not sure if he's going to play. He's incredibly important to that offense because he's really their only deep threat. He averages, I think, 16.5 yards a catch. If they're going to stretch the field, they need him to play. And certainly, if he's not on the field, Devontae Adams gets a whole lot more attention. And he's going to get attention regardless. But it's just one less dynamic that offense has. So that, to me, is my X factor.
For me, it's going to be Kenny Clark for the Green Bay Packers. I think if they're going to have success against this rushing attack, it's going to be him up the middle, blowing Alex Mack off of the line of scrimmage to start plays and getting that penetration and getting tackles for loss or creating tackles for loss. Now, there's another edge of that sword where you get too much pressure on a run play and you're not able to make a play and then you open up a gap. But I think with the San Francisco 49ers, they want to get to the edges. They want to hit that C gap and outside. Obviously, you have the inside zone tosses, and that's just used, obviously, to get guys overflowing to that outside zone look or to that, pitch look. But for me, it's got to be Kenny Clark. He's got to win that matchup against Alex Mack this week.
Real quick, I'm going to give a shout out. My X Factor. Look, Nick the Ghost 401 says, I love you, Cody, in all caps. Hey, Nick, I love you too, man. Hey, thank you so much for joining us here at twitch.tv/Pro Football Network and following us. We appreciate you. You're the GOAT, my friend. Whoever you are, I love you too. I agree with you, Dalton. I think those are some really good points there, especially when we talk about Kenny Clark. I kind of want to pinpoint somebody else as well. For the Packers, I really believe that for Green Bay, outside of Aaron Rodgers, an X factor, I think, in this game is going to be A.J. Dillon. Now, look, I know a lot of people are going to say Aaron Jones. Absolutely. Aaron Jones is a fantastic weapon for them and what they maybe want to do. However, A.J. Dillon, like I said, I think that his utilization within this offense, even more, especially in short yardage situations inside the red zone, he just offers a dynamic that, look, if he's breaking tackles and he's stumbling, it's going to force the 49ers defense to have to tighten up, which means it's going to open things up for Aaron Rodgers, Marquez Valdes-Scantling as Adams X factor, and even Devontae Adams to be able to go off a little bit more. I think he's going to be a big difference maker in this game if Green Bay wants to win. Your thoughts on the Green Bay running back duo? I mean, who do you think has to have the bigger game here between Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because A.J. Dillon was going to be my second pick for X Factor. So I'm glad you brought him up. I think he's been fantastic, and he wasn't somebody that I loved coming out of Boston College. Obviously, he was a big dude, a strong dude. He looked like a Dragon Ball Z character when he was in the backfield at Boston College, just the way that he is shaped. But he's been very, very good for them as of late. He hasn't become the feature guy, but it's become a true split in the backfield. And he's gotten a couple more carries than Aaron Jones here recently. Obviously, he played in Week 18, and Aaron Jones did not. But even before that, I believe he outcarried him like 45 to 37 in the 4 prior weeks since Aaron Jones came back from injury in Week 14. So I'm really interested to see how that carry distribution shakes out. But I do think, that power rushing attack, being able to control the clock, control the ball, it'll be interesting to see if that's how they want to attack or if they want to get out in space with Aaron Jones a little bit more, get the ball to him out of the backfield as a pass catcher. Because I don't know with this team and with the way that the 49ers attack, I think they might be trying to get as many possessions as possible. So maybe they go a little bit away from A.J. Dillon and they try to really attack the San Francisco defense. But that's just how I would look at it as an offensive guy that doesn't think the other team's offense can keep up.